Alright, folks, how's everybody doing today? About to get ready to get into it. Honestly, I don't even know what I'm going to brew. I know that I'm going to brew, but I will be taking some opinions on what I should brew today. I was thinking about an IPA, like Two Hearted. I do brew a beer like that quite often. I just got some fresh Centennials. Locally grown Centennials, so I was thinking about giving that a whirl. I do have a recipe for that. Normally I would brew that either in a 10-gallon batch where I would sparge, or a 5-gallon no sparge, but I haven't tried on my system since I put it together a 5-gallon sparge batch, so that might be an option. If I mess it up, I mess it up, but that might be something to try, something new, something exciting. So we could definitely try that. If anyone has any opinions on that, I can do that. Otherwise, I got some summer beers I can start brewing, like my watermelon wheat, or like my Blue Moon, or can do a lager. I just did 10 gallons of pills last week. Could always knock out a Helles today. 5-gallon, 10-gallon, doesn't matter. I'll leave it open. I'm just trying to think if I have anything going on, anything I need to do. I was going to leave the chat open, or leave it open for discussion here for a little bit. See if anyone has anything. If not, I think I will try that IPA and a 5-gallon sparge batch. That could be interesting and different. Something I know I don't normally do. So we could definitely try that. But let me know. I'll be right back. So I gotta make sure all my streaming platforms are working. That's what I was trying to do. It looks like my YouTube streaming's not working, or Facebook streaming's not working, so I'm trying to get all those in. Once we get all those in, all the different platforms, then we can start rocking and rolling. So just give me a minute, make sure all this is done. I'm streaming to like 6 different things, so I need to make sure all that's correct and well. So give me a bit. I don't know. Maybe it is working. Alright, everybody. Whoever's watching, whoever cares. I'm going to do some brewing today. I think we're going to try something I haven't done with the new system. Well, it's not new anymore. I've had it for a few years. I'm going to do a 5-gallon sparge batch. Normally all my 5-gallon batches are no sparge. So let's try a 5-gallon sparge. I don't know if I have, at some point, I think I built the automation in to allow for that. So I guess I don't know why it would be any different. So I'm gonna basically go from recipe, inception, upload to full brew day. And so most of it is, well, 99% of it at this point is automated. So we're gonna switch to a brewing interface here soon. And in that brewing interface is basically a graphic overlay of what's going on in the brew day. So we'll cut over to that overlay here and start with recipe. All right, so let's shut this down for right now. Let's connect to the system. All right, this brings us to the system here. Hopefully everybody can see that. I think you can. You can see my cursor, I believe, as well. So this is the brewing interface. Every one of these little guys right here is a valve. Green is on, red is off, along with let's see if, yeah, so we have DO sensors pretty much everywhere in the headspace and in the middle of vessels, so I can track DO. In the hot liquor tank right now, there's 0.01 ppm of DO, or 10 ppb of DO, so that is 16 gallons of deoxygenated water. We might have to change some things. Actually, I think we'll just go to a no sparge batch just because it's much easier. There's between 0 and 10 ppb of DO in the hot liquor tank. The hot liquor tank is also holds a Herm system, and I think we lost the cursor for some reason now. But anyways, I do have another way to allow us to see and do things. So where is our deal? Sorry. All right. So I do have this handy dandy little notepad that we can use to do some things. And so basically, I will pull this up and have this over to the side so I can kind of talk through it. So you can see my little guy here. There is a Herm system in the hot liquor tank. The entrance, so how it works is it comes out of the mash tun, goes through a Coriolis mass flow sensor where I get real-time flow, gravity, and temperature, and then it will go out here and then straight up through here into the Herms. The Herms coil is, you know, here, and then back out and into the mash tun. That is loop 1. There's 2 loops in the mash tun. So the second loop of the mash tun takes the same path here, pump out proportional valve so I can control flow as well through the mass flow, and then it forks. There's a 3-way valve and it forks and can go this route as well, bypassing the Herms. So I have 2 loops that go at the, you know, basically at the same time, and this valve here allows either it to go to Herms or back to the mash tun. So that way I never exceed temps. I never have to worry about that, and it works really well. There's multiple temperature probes. There's one on mash tun out. Here, let me actually clear this. There's one down here on mash tun out, which is actually right here is where it reads mash tun out. There's another one at mash tun in, which is at the T of the basically of the bypass valve. So that tells us our wort temp. Then I run an averaging script of between the top and the bottom, and that will tell me exactly, you know, the differential between the two. And I try and get those as close as possible to stop stratification and all those good things. The mash tun does have its own stir motor. This motor comes down and acts as a rake, which that's a horrible drawing. Acts as a rake to for dough in and for things like that to homogenize temperatures. So there's a hybrid in that. All these vessels are sealed and pressure capable. They have pressure sensors in the top and in the bottom. These differentials also tell me the potential of a stuck mash or anything like that. That is this mash compaction right down here, which is based on flow and compaction here. So that's a neat thing. What else? DO in the headspace right here. DO in the main. It's actually like right down here. All the vessels have that headspace and whatnot. So they're all pressure capable. They're all sealed. Basically, this system is a clone of, well, sort of clone. Obviously, professional breweries don't use Herms. They use steam jacketed kettles, but won't get steam jacketed kettles. So the Herms is the next closest thing in terms of heat stress, thermal stress, TBI. Those are professional terms for measuring thermal stress on wort. Herms is the closest I can get to that. But otherwise, it's sealed. All these vessels have bottom drains. They have dished bottoms. What is a dished bottom? Well, it's basically a cone, just like a conical. And I'll pull off here, allow trube and whatnot to settle, especially in the case of the boil kettle. The boil kettle has its own Coriolis mass flow, which gives us flow and real-time gravity. All these vessels have inline pH. These are all professional in-process probes, so these are not like handheld. These are all dedicated sanitary fittings, 100% industrial biomedical controls. So they can be subjected to boiling temperatures, all the range of temperatures. They have ATC and all that stuff. So this gives me an overview of a real-time process control of DO, pH, gravity, and all the things a professional German brewery would have, and that's basically what I modeled this system after. Is that so? Every valve that controls a flow is a proportional valve. It can be controlled 0 to 100, 0 being closed, 100 being open. I have let's see here. I have a nitrogen tank dedicated to the brewery. That nitrogen is then piped to multiple places in the brewery. Every vessel has a lower purge port and an upper purge port. That one right here, this one is the valve for headspace. You can see it says, you can see one down here. If I can get my little icon down here, right here for the lines of the hot liquor tank. You got one here that's for the bottom of the vessel. You got one here for the bottom of the mash tun. You got one here or here for the Herms. Again, you have headspace and purging and all these. Bottom purges again. You have purges in every set of tubing. The hot liquor tank also has a purge stone, so I can deoxygenate water using basically an oxygen stone and a recirculation to knock out all oxygen if I want to. Otherwise, I can pre-boil and cool. Otherwise, there's this other yeast deoxygenation method that we can. Thanks, Jeremiah. That we can deoxygenate water with yeast and sugar as well. So what else would be an interesting overview for people? I do have an automated hop dispensing system, and that's based on a Beersmith import. So once we create our Beersmith file, the XML, that is directly imported into the system controller. And we can go to another page in the brewing system, another overlay or HMI, however you want to call them, and we can see exactly what that is and what that does. The boil kettle, like I said, has its own hop dropping. It'll get the placement and the amount and the variety that needs to go in the different canisters. We have pressure valve again, and top and bottom. DO temperature probes. I think there's a total of about 12 temperature probes in the system, between all the different vessels, and my tap water temps, my chiller temps, and stuff like that. I do run stacked counterflow chillers. They run in parallel. So what does that mean? Well, that means that it comes out of the boil kettle and splits, and and half of the wort basically goes through one chiller, half of the other wort goes through the other chiller. They come back and they meet up and come into a whirlpool or a tangential input. All the vessels have tangential inputs as well, so that's how that works. You know, they come back in here like this, and so I can get crazy fast chilling times. Both of these are Stout's version of their counterflow chiller, which are beasts. They're the biggest counterflow chillers on the market, all stainless steel, sanitary, piping, and all that stuff. Everything in this system is 100% hard piped. All the custom piping is done by myself, and so it's 100% hard piped. It's all clean in place. You can see let me clear this. You can see the clean in place spray balls right here, which run automated spray ball or automated CIP loops. Since I brew a variety of German styles mainly, I use Sauergut, which is basically a lactic acid derived from soured wort. I auto dose that. I have a Sauergut control right here that has a flow sensor, and will auto dose and maintain mash pH, whatever mash pH we set for the day. It'll maintain mash pH, and then it will do a knockout boil addition right here to get our pH low to help with coagulation and findings. So there's that. All of the vessels also have vacuum pumps, and the way I purge my vessels, which we'll see as we get brewing, is I do a pressure up cycle to about 2 to 3 psi. I do a quick blowdown, just like you would on a corny keg where you pressure it up and then pull the PRV. I do that, but then I go one step further, and I after it depressurized, I pull a vacuum. So that is the most efficient purging method that we can do, is pressure up, blow down, then pull a vacuum, and it seems to work really well. It takes about I don't know, 10 to 12 cycles to get where we want to get, whereas normally without that vacuum, you'd be looking at 16 to 18 cycles to get where we want to be. So I'm gonna switch pages of the brewing system, and I'm gonna go over to what I call the recipe input side. And the recipe input side is right here, and we can definitely explain what that is and what that does. So just getting my little marker out. All right, so what is this? This is all of the automated brewery hot side process, and this is all imported into the controller via a beer XML file. In my instance, it's Beersmith, but it could be any recipe program that uses XML. And so obviously there's a lot of things blank right now, but we can go over it, and then once we import our recipe, then we'll see what all is brought over. But it's good to see the blank page as well. So we'll have a name for the beer. The name of the beer is going to come up here. like I said, I do all CIP stuff, so all my CIP stuff is right here. I have an auto brew timer where if I wanted to, I could put the grain in the mash tun, or get the grain in the mash tun, which is also an automated process, beforehand, and then just basically have the brew system. I can load the hops, load the malt into the hopper of the mill, because there's an automated grain delivery system. And so I could load those two things and then brew 100% remotely. I wouldn't even need to be here. In fact, I've done it, I do it quite a bit, because it's like the ultimate multitasker is to not be around when your beer is being made. And so here's where we have those auto mash pHs. YOS stands for yeast oxygen scavenging, which is a method you can use to scavenge oxygen out of water with yeast and sugar. SBT is an antioxidant that you can add on the hot side process to keep oxygen super low, to help you with that. My grains will come in here. All of my parameters for the brew day will be here. Batch size, total water needed, absorption, volumes, temperatures, all that stuff comes in here. Minerals and boil additions will come in here. That is water salts for the day, and anything that will be added to the kettle as far as finings, Werflock, Irish Moss, PBPP, Brew Bright, whatever. Down in the corner here is the mash program. That mash program, I can't move this little guy here, but I can hover off of it, and that will show you mash name, temp, and time. I do brew a lot of German beers, and even when I brew American beers, I still step mash. So you will see this section here get filled out. The yeast for the day, the IBU, the gravity, and all that stuff. Here's our hops, variety, amount, and time. And so we can load these in, and they will be dosed appropriately at when they are needed. And so up here you have a select fermenter. So the fermenter we're going to use for this beer, we select. And what happens when you select that fermenter is, let's back up. Let's get our recipe. And once we get our recipe, then what we can do is we can actually start to see data, and we can follow the data around. So with that, I am going to get out of this, and I am going to get back over to the brew system. Let's see here. I want to get that little guy off there. So let's see here. All right. I don't know what's going on with that. Let's get over here. All right. So basically, what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to pull up Beersmith. I'm going to find our beer we're going to make for the day. I'm just closing some stuff. All right, recipes. So let's brew the Dead Ringer, which is like a two-hearted IPA, which is my own recipe, and I'm going to use some locally grown hops. The reason why I don't call it a clone or anything like that is because it's not. I brew primarily German beers. I do brew some American beers as well, but all I stock in my grain room is Weyermann malts. So you'll see that a lot of my beers will use the German equivalents to the American grains. So Two Hearted is primarily, I think it's like 2-row and a little pale ale malt and a little caramel 40 maybe. And so I don't stock that. I have a very well stocked grain room There's probably 1,000 pounds of grain in there right now. Basically every base malt that Wireman offers, and then every specialty malt that they offer as well. So you'll see that my recipe is a pale ale malt from Wireman and a little bit of Cara Munich 1. And so that's going to get us to about the same SRM. And like I said, this isn't a clone. This is just a tribute. We'll call it a tribute. So the first thing I want to do is I want to change this from a 10-gallon batch. I want to go to a 5-gallon batch, no sparge. And people who use Beersmith, you can choose your equipment profile. You can have multiple profiles. So we're going to do a 5-gallon no sparge. I'm going to lower this gravity just a little bit because it is a higher efficiency, because it is a higher gravity beer, and it doesn't always go so well with no sparge. But for some reason it's not letting me. So we want to scale recipe. Let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do this. We'll scale gravity. If I remember right, that's like a 1064 beer, somewhere around there. I wonder why for some reason my numpad isn't working on this remote session, so that sounds good. We'll go to 1064. I think bitterness is around 60. That's what we'll do today anyways. I wonder why my number, let's see. None of my, interesting. Let's match it. Let's go 64 just for giggles. And this is tremendously ridiculous how I'm having to do it. All right, so now that we got that, all right, so let's go over to water. And we definitely don't need 19. Oops. I'm doing this remotely on a super small screen, so I apologize for any mess ups. I can't edit it. Cool. I wonder if I can pull up. Let's work smarter, not harder. Let's search for on-screen keyboard. Do it this way. There we go. I don't know that this is any better, but alright. So let's go. So we have an American IPA. For our mash, we're gonna do a Brauwelt no sparge, which is a step mash, and traditionally, obviously, it's not used for probably this beer, but that's okay. So we're gonna dough in at 135, and we're gonna step through. Let's go over to the water side, and this is hanging on to the old water profile. Let's delete this. All right. some reason, is that right? 10 gallons of water. Yeah, that sounds about right. So we're gonna need 10.17, and we're just gonna use RO today. RO actually, yeah, RO 10.17, and here is, we're gonna get rid of any boil additions since we are doing the no sparge. So what does that look like? Calcium sulfate is pretty damn high. Let's see here. Oh, it is to the hoppy pale ale, so I really don't like that much sulfate, but and we're definitely not going to add baking soda. So what do we still got here? That's a little better. So now it looks a little bit different. We are going to be using Imperial. We're going to add some miscellaneous. Oops. Some miscellaneous here in the form of Brutan B. And we are going to add that to the mash and the boil. I have separate profiles because of how they're dosed automatically. So let's add that one. Add that one. We are then going to add whirl clock. Closing, and then we are going to add PVPP. All right, so PVPP. All right. So that recipe looks about as good as it's going to look. And once we are ready for that, I'm going to save this as our dead ringer as a 5 GNS, which for me stands for 5 gallon no sparge. All right, so we have our 5 gallon no sparge that's created, that we just did. And so to get that over to the brewing controller, I'm just gonna go over and make sure that we have zeroed our stuff out. And then it's just as simple as a right click, export, and we're looking for a XML recipe. And by the time we get over to the brew system, we should have our details. So we are missing some hop times, so let's do this. Sometimes it doesn't clear all the way. Much better. All right. So like when I explained it before, we had an empty screen. And so let me get out of this now, and now we can interact with this guy again. So now you can see we are completely filled out in all our different areas. We have all our water salts, we have our name, and everything we need for the brew day on that simple import, hops and all that fun stuff. I need to change this quick. How do we want to do that? See how this says third hop time an hour? That's not right. So I'm gonna just run back over to Beersmith. Actually, I can just, for now, I'll edit it here. So we want this guy off here because this guy was a dry hop. So that's gonna screw us up. So we want to delete that guy. Actually, let's cancel that. Let me move this guy over here. We want to delete that. We want to delete that. And we want to change this guy to 0 right here. Okay. All right, because this, like I said, this is just hot side process for today. We worry about that in a different area. So how this works now is, you can't see a cursor. I think I can actually, let's see here. Doesn't allow me. So remember I told you about this little guy up here. Select fermenter. So the cool thing that I built into this system was, give me a second, Jeremiah, okay? The cool thing about this Beersmith import and the way I set up my automation is this one import takes me from brew day to the keg. Well, to serving actually. And so there's these little guys that help follow the recipe along. So I have to select fermenter. I have 4 different fermenters. I have a FV1, FV2 fermenting vessel, a unitank, and FV bot. There's another one, FV top too, but I don't use that much anymore. FV1, FV2 are a little bit, well, they can knock out 16 gallon. They're like 20 gallon conicals, but they're for a half barrel batch. Unitank is a 10 gallon unitank, and then these FV bot, FV top are just some SS Brewing brew buckets. Anyways, it's asking me to select a fermenter. What does select a fermenter mean? Well, select a fermenter means select a fermenter. Today, since this is a 5 gallon batch, we are going to brew in FV bot. So FV bot is right here. And when I select FV bot, you can't see my cursor, but you can see that I'm hovering over it, and I clicked it. So FV bot now clicked. One sec, I gotta clear that. This guy. All right. So now that is clicked, that brings all my fermentation details from my one Beersmith profile back over. So like I said, I clicked FV bot. Now if I go to the Garkeller, which is the fermentation side of the brewery, you'll see that this little guy now says the beer. And when I'm ready to start fermenting, when the beer is in the fermenter, which it has its own tilt and volume and all that kind of stuff, when the beer is in the fermenter, it'll auto set the fermentation temperature. It'll know when to transfer over to the spun, so it'll alert me and all that stuff. So that the spunning chamber is where I naturally carbonate all my beers. Like I said, I brew German beers, so I naturally carbonate all my beers. and that via spunding. And so it knows exactly when to alert me to transfer over to spun based on the gravity and how many gravity points, the desired carbonation level, all that fun stuff. You can see I have a beer spunted right on the left chamber. I have 4 different spun chambers that I can do. There's digital pressure gauges. So there's pressure, industrial pressure gauges on there that give me a readout. So right now I'm at 14.5 psi in this lager at 53 degrees, and that's a Pils. And so it knows the exact pressure to set the spun. There's a PRV, electronic PRV on there with a needle valve, so if it does go higher, it will blow off that pressure slowly and then close the PRV and then maintain. This dip right here that is on there, I pulled a gravity sample last night. So, but that beer will go into this spun chamber number 2, where based on temperature and carbonation levels, you can it'll auto carbonate itself. It'll also keep track of the purge count and how many times the PRV opens and all that kind of stuff. So I also mentioned the milling side. Well, on the milling side, I do have a SS Brewtech mill that I've automated. It sits on load cells. So when you fill the hopper is the scale. And so all I have to do, because my data was brought in from that beersmith, I know the grains I'm using and how much, and the total weight. And so this has an auto mode and a maintenance mode. The auto mode basically will, if we're in brew session, once it gets to the weight needed, it will start milling. There's a grain delivery system that uses an air vacuum, and that will basically push all the grain in the hopper into the mash tun for an auto dough in. So, so those are some of the different screens. I have more other screens, but these are the ones that are privy to today. I'll go back to the brewing side right here with our data, but we'll go back to our main page here and we'll get ready to start the brew. Jeremiah did have a question, how many grams of gypsum and calcium chloride? In this instance, for this beer, it's 17 grams, 17.31 of gypsum and 4.5 of calcium chloride. So hopefully that answers your question. And basically what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get up, I'm going to go get that grain ready, and we will start the brew day. The first thing I'm going to do is go back to the brewing, and since we are going to actually brew today, we're going to go up to the top left corner and we're going to click Enable Brewing. What that's going to do is it's going to shut all my valves and it's going to get us ready to start to brew. So this gives us our clean slate, no valves open, just valves open that need be. We have an interactive screen here. Press Brew Start to begin, and awaiting purge commands. So with that, we are going to actually click Brew Start because we do want to start. That's going to kick us over to our recipe screen, which we already imported our recipe, but if we didn't, this is where I would import my beersmith recipe. And since we did that, it has all our parameters today, and I am just looking through our parameters to make sure everything looks right. So it looks like we're going to be about 65 IBU, post-boil gravity of about 1062. We're going to boil for an hour today. Our first hop addition is at 45 minutes. Our second is at 20 minutes. We will be doing a dry hop. Here's our kettle additions and our mash down in the left-hand corner, which is a step mash. Yes, I know I'm brewing an IPA, but I don't change my mash regimen based on beer style. So if that looks good, then what I have to hit is brewing parameters. Once brewing parameters are hit, all this data is locked in the brewing controller, and it's gonna start asking me things like, am I ready? Yes, I am. False bottom. False bottom is in. I have forgotten my false bottom. You'll notice that I'm kind of a dumbass and I forget a lot of things. So that's why I built an automated brew system to make sure I am less of a dumbass. So hey Paul, just saw your question. Well, I already have bins, and my thought process on my grain automation is I'm just going to use load cells like I do with the mill, and then these air vacs, which are basically little vacuums. So you could basically use a valve, open the valve, put the valve on the bottom of the grain bin, and then once the valve opens, turn on the exactly. Once that valve opens, turn on the air vac and pull that grain out, and then once that load cell reads the registered weight, we're good. So yeah, no, it's more than on the radar. It's we'll call it in alpha testing right now. So all right, so false bottom in, I'm gonna say yes. Now it's gonna ask me about water salts. So I don't have my water salts ready. So I'm gonna go get my water salts ready. I'm gonna go get my grain ready. I think somewhere I can give you a look inside of the brewery and what I'm doing. Today I am not using the grain delivery system. So I'm going to do that more manually. I'm looking at some different options, so it's kind of tore apart. I'm going to go to a bigger diameter pipe. I'm at 1 inch right now, but I don't like it. I'm going to go up to like a 2-inch diameter, so I have that kind of taken apart. So it'll be a little bit more manual today, but that's fine. It's not like I got anything else to do or anywhere to go. Here we are. So I'm going to go back there. I'm going to see if I can give you a view into the brewery while I am doing this. So let's see here. I might just bear with me while I do this. I just got to bop back. No. See if I can grab it here. There it is. Let's see if I can make it bigger. All right. So I will be right back. I am going to go get some stuff ready, and so you should be able to see what's going on with that. I'll be back shortly. All right, so I'm back. So what's going on right now? Let me explain it to you. Right now we're purging lines and getting ready. So we just purged all our lines. We're prepping to fill if we need any in the hot liquor tank, which we don't. So right now we are heating to strike. Right now is where we would be filling grain, which I'm going to go back and do right now. Let's go and shut this guy off. So right now I am going to go actually start milling. I'll cut you back over to that stuff. Let's see here. I'll cut you back over to the cameras. I have it weighed out already. I'm gonna load it and start milling. So I will be right back. All right, we're back. So grain was added in this case. Now we are just going to wait for our purging of the grain and purging of the mash tun. As you can see, let me get my interaction here. All right, so, whoops. We are starting our purge cycles. We do have the nitrogen tank on. We are, oh my gosh, we're drawing like crazy here. So right now we're purging the herms. So every valve that's green is getting purged. You got your tank here, and so the purge is coming in right here and purging all herms lines and anything like that. The way this purge works is nitrogen, and then it's being dumped back into the mash tun. So you can see our mash tun DO right now is at about 200 ppb of DO. Our headspace is falling rapidly as well from purging. Gosh, I'm getting a little glitchy here. And so it's about a 60-second purge to purge all that tubing. It's going to auto do it. Here it's purging the bypass now. So it purged the coil and all the herms with that. So we're pulling a vacuum as we're purging because it's coming out. It's being dumped back into the mash tun. So we're pulling a vacuum as we're doing that. So we're pulling out DO. We're just trying to make the most efficient use of the purge gas, which in this case is nitrogen. So we are now purged. All our lines are purged. This is a sealed vessel. Everything is sealed. Right now it's wanting to add the antioxidants, so I'm going to go add those quick. Normally I don't have to use antioxidants because I do this, but I'm getting data. I do a lot of data collection, and this system basically data logs everything, so I can see everything I need to see based on using antioxidants, not using antioxidants, using different purge methods. So I try and amass all this data. So with that said, I'll be right back. All right, cool. So I added that. Now that that's added, we are heating to strike temp. Strike temp is going to be roughly 140 degrees, somewhere around there. Our temperature right now is 99. We have two 5,500 watt elements in this hot liquor tank. This is a 30-gallon hot liquor tank, so it has 11,000 watts of heating power in it. It's half full right now. And we only need 10 gallons out of that, so no big deal. What we're gonna do is we're gonna underlet those 10 gallons. Underlet those 10 gallons just like this into the mash tun, like that. And once we'll be left with 6 gallons. I need about 13 gallons to cover my herms coil. No problem whatsoever, because I have a on-demand water heater fill valve right there, and it's gonna come out at about 145 degrees. And we'll be off and running. So we are just kind of in a holding pattern right now. You can see our DO in our hot liquor tank is the most beautiful. It's as close to 0 as my instruments can read, which they are very nice. So that is nice and low, which is great. We should be adding heat very fast because we are at nearly 50 watts. This is a watt meter. We are at nearly 50, amps. This is an amp meter. We are at nearly 50 amps. So this is a 60 amp system, and so we are good. What else? I do have a manual sight glass. So things to know about me are I'm fanatically, I wouldn't say I'm OCD because I'm not, but when it comes to verification, I can get pretty crazy. So what that means is I'll always usually have a minimum of two, often more though, of verification levels to my brewing. So I have a manual sight glass in the kettle, or in all the vessels, and that would be, the manual one would be right here, just a sight glass. It's closed, so it actually does go from bottom to top, and it's looped, so it can be a closed loop. So I have the manual mode where I can physically go look, which I do, and then I have two different modes of how much liquid is in there. I have a digital pressure gauge, and I have another I don't even know the right word to call it, another gauge for backup. So I have these gauges, all these different gauges, manual, pressure, and ultrasonic sensor on the top. So I can measure all my different volumes 3 different ways and always make sure they jive. The other thing I always do is I have flow meters on anytime any liquid enters the vessel and when it exits. So I have tons of scripts, automation scripts, that always monitor that what goes in and what comes out should jive with what's been there in one of these 3, 5, 10 different ways. So and I log all that, and so I know. So we're at 116. We should be climbing. I think we'll see like 7, 8 degrees a minute or something like that is what we should roughly see. It's been 15 minutes since we started brewing. I got a timer that I keep with that. I don't brew to save time. I don't cut any corners to save time. I don't have to. Short of today me adding the actual grain, I could walk away now and come back and fill a fermenter. So I don't brew to save time. I brew because I love the scientific process, and I love the automation side, which is why I have my system like I have my system, I guess. I think strike might be 145. It's usually about 10 degrees above what my dough-in is. My dough-in, I believe, was 135, so it should be close to that. In the meantime, we should be purging this guy, and I wonder why we're not. Let me go check it out. looks like we had the little one valve decided not to open. I don't know why it caught. I'll have to, I always keep a notepad with me. I'll have to figure out why it didn't open. But so what's going on now? We had a pressure up to about 2 psi. Right now we're doing a blowdown with the vacuum connected, and you can see that the different pressure sensors are affected. There's some positive pressure there. And so we're blowing down via this PRV right here, and the loop of that, so we can conserve gas and we can make the most of our deal, is it comes out here and then goes into the bottom of the boil kettle, and then through the boil kettle to purge the boil kettle, out the top PRV, through that pump, and then off to the atmosphere. So basically I'm recycling the purge gas to try and be the most efficient as possible. So that's the purge loop on that. That's how that works. Again, now we're at 130 degrees. Here's our pH of our water in the mash tun, or in the hot liquor tank, sorry. DO. So we just ran through one purge cycle because that was a pressure up and a blow down. So now we have a purge count of 1. Now we're back on our pressure up cycle. You can see pressure increasing here, pressure increased here. We hit our pressure. Now we're doing our blow down and blow through. Once that completes and actually does pull a vacuum on that, you'll see this guy go negative. Then we'll close all the valves and we'll do it again. And that's what is considered a purge cycle. So DO at the bottom of the vessel where the grain is. Hey Italy. So DO at the bottom of the vessel right now is at around 150, 60 ppb, particles per billion. And so once the bottom gets purged, the headspace will soon follow. In a perfect world, my DO is super low and my strike is ready, and everything progresses. So by all means, if you guys have any questions, speak up. I'm happy to answer anything you got. You know, a decent amount. I have a giant tank, the biggest tank you can pretty much get from a welding supply place. I can't remember how big it is. A couple hundred cubic feet or something like that. And I'm pretty efficient with my purges and reusing of gas, so it's not too terribly much, but it's a decent amount. I have to fill my tank probably. I try and brew at least once a week, and so I have to refill my tank about 4 or 5 times a year. So we purged to about 100 ppb roughly in the mash tun. We're underletting right now. We already hit strike temp, and so we're already underletting. Here's how much we've underlet. Here's how much we're shooting for, and like I said, it's coming out like this, and then coming up into the bottom of the tun. Yeah. See, the problem with the nitrogen is I'm pretty sure there's no phase change like there is with the CO2. I'm not getting liquid nitrogen. I'm getting gas, so you don't get the phase change. So you're just holding gas, and it doesn't go as long as far as you'd like it. That's for sure. But that's awesome. Alright, so where are we at? We're at about, so I like to underlet at about 1 gallon per minute. There's a proportional valve here. I'm on a small screen, so I don't know how clear it is to you, but there's this proportional valve right here is modulating the flow to try and hit about a gallon per minute. A nice slow underlet, less dough balls and stuff like that, and so seems to work well. Once we get done, we will do a stir as well. So it seems to work decent. Do I control this from this touch screen? No, it's all well, yeah, so I can control it right now if I want from right where I'm sitting. Otherwise, there is a touch screen panel as well. So for instance, give me 1 second. Shoot, I just screwed up. Give me 1 sec here. Sorry, I'm a man. I'm trying to multitask. My wife's texting me here. Give me 1 sec still. So no, I can control it from here or actually on the panel. I have a big control panel. It's about 36 by 48, and it's got a 24-inch touchscreen on it that shows this same overlay. Yeah, give me 1 second. Are you familiar with Brew Control? Okay, 1 sec. 1 sec. 1 sec. Where am I? Where am I? Where am I? Okay, your full undivided attention. Okay, so yes, I can control it from here. So let me show you how I do that. I will be turning on, shoot, let me go back. I will turn on, how about I will turn on this valve. Turn on this valve and not leave your site. So all right, you see it go on, turning off. So yes, I can remotely control it from here, and it can be controlled from the panel. Let me go back to my thing. Let me clear that. All right, so how does that work? It's a script, and that script tells it if the flow, all right, so if the flow here at the rate, my thing kind of glitches. So you have your totalizer, which is 8.6 or 8.7, that's the total. But you have your rate down here. So that script is based on the rate. And so it's a looped script that basically says, if it is not at 1 gallon, tick this proportional valve. If it's below, tick it up. If it's above, tick it down. And that script runs in a 5-second loop. And so it's continually either ticking up, ticking down based on the feedback that it's getting from right here. So that's how that works. And it's just a loop of a script that basically says if the flow is above 1 gallon per minute, lower the valve 1 tick. If it's above, vice versa. So it's a really simple script. And so we are almost there. We're at 9.75 gallons. Yeah, so Paul, I love Brew Control. I don't know if you know my backstory or anything like that, but I've had a lot of different brewing software setups and stuff like that. And Pete and I are really good friends, and so we have worked really closely with that and doing all sorts of stuff, and I absolutely love it. All right, so we wanted that. We hit a little more, no big deal. It's lost in the pipe anyways, and that's why it does that. All right, so right now we have our stir motor is on, and we are stirring the grain after the underlet. And give me 1 sec. just use 1 gallon per minute. No, I usually keep right around 1 gallon a minute, and you could set it to whatever you want. You could have a script, you could have buttons that say, you know, predefined levels of, like, let's say you want to sparge, let's say you want to sparge, you want to fly sparge, and you want quarts per minute or whatever. You can have it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. You can have whatever measurement you want. What else we got? Downloading brew control now. Yeah, box. Yeah, cool. Yeah, I mean, I love brew control. I'm not paid. I'm not endorsed by them in any way. I love it. It's a fantastic brewing control program for mild or wild. So we're just recirculating right now. We are going through the herms because we're ramping to our first actual rest, which is going to be right around 144, 145. So we are, like I said, going through the herms. So the flow process is right here. I don't know why it glitches out on me like that. And then up through the herms and then back out and through. So that's the control process right now. Right now we're at a density of 1035, almost 1036. We haven't even hit any beta yet, so that's why the number is low. And we'll see how we progress. The hot liquor tank is also recirculating just to keep water moving around that Herms coil. Oh, let's get our sight glass. Let's see here. So there's our sight glass right now. All sorts of nice and murky. It'll clear up. I do have a logo behind it, so once that starts to clear up, that'll look good. We're shooting for a mash pH of about 5.4. If you remember our auto settings, right now we are at 5.38, 5.39. That's of course in process. It does have ATC, so that is the actual pH. So we were very close. We did add sour goot, which is that acidified wort. It's German Reinheitsgebot compliant, and we dosed about 116 mils of that, and our pH is hovering right around where we want to be. Again, that's an automated script as well, and so it's generally pretty efficient. I clicked the button. Oh yeah, Paul. Sight glass cam all the way. Give me a minute. I'm just going to go check things visually, and I will be back. Yeah, so it does. The sourgood is auto dosed. Um, I wrote the script that basically tries to do an auto calculation um, based on the actual parameters of how the acid works and all that fun stuff. So um, yes, it does auto dose, and it will also try and maintain as well. So if the pH gets too out of whack, more than a couple points, it will dose again to try and maintain. You can see now that we added now that we added that on-demand hot water. Uh, the DO went up because, of course, of the DO and the tap water and whatnot on the on-demand. I mean, it is so DO is a function of temperature. The colder the water, the higher DO. So just things to note. So we're circulating through the herms. We have a temperature differential. Let's see here. Alright, sorry about that. So mash control is the PID, is the mash PID, is the PID control. So that's the amount of control. It's controlling the element in the hot liquor tank to be where it should be. Be careful with the Coriolis meters on eBay. A lot of them don't have the resolution that you need for brewing. Yeah, exactly. I use the DS65 series. You can get to 1 gravity point resolution. So, I don't remember how long our rest was. I think it was 30 minutes. So we're a little over halfway through. Not much to see at this point. The bypass valve is toggling. DO is nice and low, which is what I'm looking for. Our gravity, a third of the way through the 2/3 of the way through the first rest is 1043. I think we want like a 1057 pre-boil, somewhere around in there. So we'll see how we're doing. Other than that, we just wait. If there's any other questions, just let me know. Yeah, I have a few Endershausers as well. Yeah. Trying to think. DO7 or what was it? What is it? I can't remember, but it's super cool. It's way smaller profile than my Micromotions. I'm trying to remember the model number on that sucker. I can't remember it. No, it wasn't a ProMass. Let me see. Oh, what is it? What is it? DQ 600. Yeah, the one I have is a DQ 600. M point DQ 600. Hey Kevin, you must be a cyber backpacker, something like that. Am I right? On my panel is 24. Yeah, 24. Yeah, and then I'm just running 1920 by 1080 as far as resolution on that. So it looks like we just hit a little bit over an hour. Almost done with our first mash rest. We'll ramp up to about 147, 148 after this. Sounds good, Paul. We'll ramp up to about 147, 148 after this, and then 152 after that. It's the way to get all the beta enzymes you can to make the most fermentable wort you can, and so you'll always see me do step mashing. Mash pH is looking good. It's dosed sour good a few times here, and it'll probably dose again. We're at 5.43 to 5, so it'll probably start dosing here. I give it a 0.005% leeway because anything under that is just chasing nightmares. So it'll probably dose a little bit here soon. DO looks good. Gravity's getting up there. We got still got about 10, 12 points to go. I'm gonna go insert the pH probe into the boil kettle, and I'll be back. Alright, well, this is chugging along. I think I'm gonna go grab some lunch quick. We can just watch it. Coming up on our second rest, we're at about 10:46. I do run conversions here, right here, for bricks and Play-Doh. And yeah, so keep an eye on those. And I'll be back in a little bit. I'm back. I'm just gonna eat while I sit here. You don't have to see me feed my face, but I am here if you do have any questions or want to know anything. So just let me know when I'm done filling my face. I'll put the camera back up and we'll go from there. What's up, brother? I'm just here filling my face with dessert now. eBay was eBay. YouTube was copyright protecting me. Can you hear music now? It should be there faintly in the background. Yeah, so I was using copyright free music, and they were still copyright claiming me. It's not like I entered it blind. His response, or the whole thing that started it was was it was like a bait, right? He baited me, and I knew it. I don't give a shit anymore. I really don't. hops, friend. Yeah, but I agree with you. Obviously, I do. But it's not even that difficult. It's more of a how can I put it? It's like discounting. It's just another method, right? So how is it any different than like decoction or brewing a bag or single infusion mashing? Yeah, but here's the problem. That post was nothing about hot side at all. It was all about cold side. Everyone should be in 100% agreement about cold side, but we're still fighting that fight. So I don't know. Whatever. I don't. It is what it is. It's not the first nor the last. It doesn't have to be substandard. It's different. That's all it is. I mean, I don't know. Like I don't care how anyone brews beer. I only care how I do beer. If it's getting me what I want. So I don't understand why other people give a shit how I brew beer. I can turn it down. I turned it up. I'll turn it down. I turned it down a little bit. Let me know if that helps. See, I have no way to monitor it. I just have to guess, so. Tell me if it's still too loud. Just about to be done with the second beta rest. Shooting for about a 1057-ish pre-boil. We got one more step. We're gonna ramp up to about 152, 151. Get all the rest of the beta amylase that we can, and then we'll ramp up to 163, fully convert the mash, and we'll be good. Oh, 168 too, but. Mash beta 2, yep. Yes, I will dry hop it. Amp meter. Yep, that's the amp meter, brewery amp meter. So it's being controlled with that PID right now. So that mash control, the mash control in the middle of the mash tun there in the middle is a PID. So that's why it's fluctuating like that. I'll dry hop with a few gravity points remaining, then let it ferment out, and then I'll speeds carbonate it. Allow activity to pick back up in the fermenter, and then rack it to the spunding keg. Yep, totally. Are you gonna sponsor it? I'll be right back. All right, I'll take you up on that. Still playing with it. I don't know what's going on. I should have did some more testing. No, I solely do it for oxygen ingress. I can't dry hop a finished beer. I just can't do it. Not with what I see for DO pickup. Still dealing with an issue with stuck mashes. They came out of absolutely nowhere. And I have no idea what the hell is going on. Same grains. Yeah, I don't understand. I mean, I sieve tested, however you want to say it. I did the crush. I got to do it again because I don't understand what's going on. It just came out of the blue. You can see it's starting to compact right now. You can see right here we're dropping in volume. And we're running a compaction of 26%. You can see gallons per minute falling too. I even opened up the crush on the mill today too. Yeah, it does. go. Did you brew today, Dan? Yep, I know. Don't worry, I'll get up and I'll go check it just to make sure it's still there. Here, I'll check it right now, make sure it's still there. Yeah, dude. I saw they have a new lid with a condenser on it too. Wonder where that came from. Or wait, I didn't see. What about calling out touchscreens and software controls? Like calling it out like that's the way to go, or calling it out like people who use them are dumb? Yeah, I bet if you pull that membrane, you'll see that a lot of the fluid got squeezed out of it. So just refill it with fluid and recal it, and it should be good. They're so robust. Looking for that Instagram spike post thing. Yeah, amen to that. I guess that's what they say, right? Imitation is the best form of flattery. Is that what the saying is? I look on Homebrew Talk and I see all these systems with micromotion mass flow and pH and DO. Feel the same way. Except Dan, because I love Dan. Sure. I don't care. Anyone can have any of my recipes. There's nothing special in a recipe. Yeah. I get it. For some reason it still bothers me. I don't know why. I look at it as kind of like a fly, little bird, fly on your own, be your own. Then again, I designed a whole lineup for everybody to buy from Stout Tanks, so I don't know. I'm stupid, so. No, you know I'm not like that. I share everything. I share almost everything. Almost everything, we'll call it that. I'm struggling to figure out why I'm having these mash issues.
What we do here is go back.
No, I'm not seeing gravity drops, just pressure drops. Later, dude. Talk to you later.
Watch me as I walk